Hi.
Hi.
We have with us Gloria, originally from Zimbabwe, currently on the Knight-Hennessy scholarship at Stanford.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Gloria, Gloria Chikaonda. I am a doctoral law student at Stanford University, Stanford Law School. I'm doing what's called a JSD, which is effectively a PhD in law. It's an application like no other. So you have to, make a video of yourself talking about something that you're passionate about. That's something that I've never seen in any other application. You also have to, there's like a bit on the application after you've mentioned, your schooling and all of your accomplishments, your work experience and all of that stuff, your recommendations. There's a little bit that asks for 9 facts about yourself, random facts. I think it's 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is that for? And so sometimes people who are applying, and even when I was applying, I was like, oh my God, what do I write? 8 random facts? Like, what do they want to get out of this type of thing? And it's like, we just want to see what you're like as a full, entire person. And, the more honest you are, the more authentic, the better. And I think especially for students coming from Africa, because we're used to applications that are very like, what are your academic accomplishments? What are your professional accomplishments? Not who are you as an individual, as a person? What are you interested in? Like, what is some random thing? Maybe you collect coins or, something like that. But that could be the thing that gets you into the program, for whatever reason they feel like this complements, the community that we're trying to build. So it was good for me to learn how to talk about myself and the minutiae of my character and my things that I'm interested in, and knowing that that's valuable. And then it helps to have been rewarded by getting into the program. But I think in general, I think it's a good ethos to just like learn how to unpack the little things in your life that you think this is unimportant, but it's like, it makes you, and it makes you like a great candidate for a particular space. So yeah.
And like you were saying before, like that it's so much different for someone to be applying to like US schools and scholarships coming from a developing country background. I'm assuming one of the major things are obviously that thing of where most of our scholarships are around like prove that you're financially unable to study without the scholarship. And like I remember MasterCard, they were like your parents' pay slips since whatever year, and I was like, and even actually like at home, like this government loan scheme situation, they want like your parents' pay slips, but also like if they're not working, they want like a police declaration that they're not working. They want like death certificates. They want like disability proof. Like it's just like display your poverty to us so that it's bad because it's bad like because that becomes the focus of your application, but it's also equally bad because not everyone has that documentation. That was like a big deal.
It's absolutely a barrier. Like, and that's the thing, the Knight-Hennessy scholarship doesn't have first of all, it doesn't have a fee for it. Unfortunately, the school does have fees, and that's something we can also talk about, which is like, unfortunately, you will need money to apply to schools abroad, like, and not an insignificant amount. Like at the time I was working as a TA in the law school at UCT, and essentially I think like 1 month's whole salary of like 12,000 Rand went to, in various ways, applying. But that was, to be fair, because I applied to more than one school, but you want to do that because you don't want to put your eggs in one basket. So it costs money. But what I did like, at least about the scholarship application, was it doesn't even ask for your transcript, which the programs actually do ask for your transcript, and it's a whole process. You have to send it to a website, you have to pay for that service, you have to, pay UCT to get your transcript, and, it's a whole thing. There's a lot of money that goes into that. But for the scholarship program, they just want a unofficial transcript. They're not really even concerned about your grades, I don't think. I mean, they want to know you're capable, but it's not like the deciding factor. They don't ask for, it's not a need-based scholarship, right? Which in some ways could be bad, I suppose, because it means that, you know, you're going to accept people who may not need the money when there are other people who could use the money. But I think what they're more looking for is they have a certain value system and certain kinds of people that they're looking for. The program is a separate application and the scholarship is a separate application. It does mean that money and time when you're doing the applications.
I think an important thing to just like hear, I guess, considering UCT is the best in Africa and then Stanford being Ivy League in the States and whatnot. What would you say have been some of the experiences that are different, like in terms of learning?
They're the same in the sense that they're the quote unquote best, or at least in the top, you know. And so a lot of this stuff that you would find at elite institutions back home are, you know, issues that you'd find at elite institutions back home are the same issues you find here. But at the same time, they are different, maybe for that very reason, which is there's a very stark difference in terms of resources. And so it's just like a weird experience to go to a top institution in Africa and feel like you are extremely privileged to be there. And this institution has more resources than where you come from, you know? Then go to the US and find that UCT has nothing on the kind of money that Stanford has, you know what I mean? So so it's a weird space because, you know, at UCT we would complain about like not having support on certain things and like, you know, like if you're trying to get mental health services and if you're trying to get, you know, all of this stuff. And then I come here and I'm like, y'all are fine. Like, but people here still complain about those issues, but it's like, you know, it's relative. The one thing I will say is different is that at Stanford, comparing it to schools back home, I think is that there's a more serious, and this is probably tied to resources, but there's a more serious approach to research and scholarship as a profession in and of itself, as opposed to like, you know, like they take PhDs seriously, like PhDs get paid effectively, whereas at UCT and, you know, schools in Africa, again, it's a resource thing, but a lot of people fund their own PhDs. Like it's not unusual for people to do that. Whereas here, it is unusual. Most people are on scholarships, so most people are funded by the institution. And like applying to by virtue of getting into a PhD, you're getting funding. It's not a lot, and it's, you know, it's actually not enough, but still it's there. You're guaranteed, if I get into the program, I'm getting funding of some sort, which is not the case back home. Like you almost always have to either apply to a separate scholarship in the institution or, you know, have money of your own. And so because of that, there is a more willingness to fund projects, you know, encourage innovation, encourage independent thinking, independent research projects that have nothing necessarily to do with, you know, your main program. And, you know, there's support for stuff like that. There's just so much more support to play, I guess, intellectually, and to collaborate with people and to, you know, there's also an emphasis on interdisciplinary work. So they encourage you to take classes in engineering, in like, if you want to do coding or whatever, you know, it's a tech heavy place, but like there's support to do all of that stuff and pursue all of your different interests if you want to, in addition to doing like your main, you know, course or, you know, program, which may not necessarily be related, but I think they value that like cross-pollination of knowledge and collaboration of minds. So that's definitely something that's a huge difference. And then pedagogically as well, like US schools just teach differently. Like class is about your opinions. They want you to speak more. They grade you on like, are you contributing in class? They grade you on like a lot of the question, like the assignments are written, just like tell us your thoughts, do a reading, write something. Like there's no, this is what you need to write. There's no, this is the question or this is the prompt. It's just like reflective writing. And it was so weird for me. I mean, I was in the class that I was in with my advisor, because she had come to Stanford and had been here for her PhD. She used those methods in her class, so it wasn't unusual to me. But I mean, outside of her class, I never experienced that at UCT, where it's just like, write what you think.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of like being in every class and being asked to just write what I think. That was a culture shock in terms of like the pedagogy, and of course, there's the more obvious stuff, which is that it's way, way, way less diverse. And it's way less diverse than they put on the website. They sell that as a talking point.
On the pamphlet.
Oh my God. It's to be fair, there's a significant Asian community here. So, if you're Asian, then I think you'll feel at home. Maybe not at home, but like there are people that look like you on campus.
Yeah.
In my class, in my LLM class of 90 students, I was the one Black girl and the one African. And then I think in their LLB, which is called the JD, I think their first years, they had an intake of 25 Black students. And that was their biggest intake, I think, out of almost 200 first year law students. And that, they considered that an achievement. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? So those are the demographics on campus. And so it's a shock coming from home. Like,
yeah.
And I thought I would be fine with it because, again, you went to UCT, you're at an elite institution. It's really a predominantly white institution. So you see white people all the time. But it's just like, my God, there are no Black people on this campus. And so, that's been an adjustment for sure. Like it's honestly, it's been hard to be quite frank. But I've, you find your people over time. And those I think are the main differences.
Yeah, and that's actually such a big deal because like even moving to London, one of the things I've been thinking about is like, okay, but my hair, like I've heard of like an area called Peckham where there's like predominantly Black, but I'm just like, so like, do I just rock up and like, but I also know that like doing stuff like here is like way more expensive here, so I'm just like, life. Man.
Yeah, listen, there's no, if I want to get my hair done, I have to drive an hour out. That's how and again, like Stanford is they literally call it the Stanford bubble, right? But I think I did not appreciate what that meant. It's in Palo Alto, which is like rich, white, techie people live here in the suburbs. And it really is like UCT in a lot of ways. Like you're in Rondebosch, but at least I feel like you're close enough to things in Rondebosch. Yeah, like even going to the store is like a whole thing. You have to plan around it, or if you don't have a car, you have to take like the bus, and that's not frequent, or you have to ride your bike or what. Like it's and so you're really, really in like a social bubble in a lot of ways and cut off from like the real world. And living in California, which is like the inequality is crazy and there's a lot of homelessness, but you don't see that in the area that we're in. So yeah, it's something that you have to think about. And that's why I think like actually videos like this really help, because when I read the website, they said, the university is near everything and the university is really diverse and all of this stuff. But now I can say to someone who's coming here, like, listen, this is what it's really like, just so that when you make that decision, you know that this is what the experience is like. for a person of color, especially for, you know, an African. Like, there's certain things that are important to us that people might not even think about mentioning, and you won't find on the website, but you need to speak to someone who's there to know that, oh, if you want to get your hair done, it's not happening. You better learn how to braid, because you can't, and it's like $300 to get your, like, listen. You know, so it's, you know, it's those small things that really make you feel at home that people don't think about when, at least the institution and like officials of the institution don't think about when they're telling you about the institution.
Yeah.
So,
but yet here you are to save the day. Tell us the real deal about the hair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do my own hair anyway at this point. I've been doing it since even at UCT. I was always broke. So I always had to learn how to figure out my hair by myself. So like, yeah, that hasn't really affected me. But no, what has definitely affected me is like not having access to my people. If I want to go to a club, like where do I go where they play African music? Where do I find African food? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I can't find it here because it's such a vanilla environment. So yeah, it's and that's the stuff that makes you feel like, okay, I'm not in a completely new place, you know what I mean? But I think because that stuff wasn't available to me, I think the transition here was really difficult, and I just felt like, oh my God, I want to go home. I hate it here, you know, for like the first couple of months. Yeah. Yeah,
I'd be like having like a Burna Boy concert in my room because I'm just like, what must happen?
Always. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Gloria, what I don't know if you maybe already said this already, but like if there are other things that have been sort of mind-blowing about your experience, maybe specifically with the scholarship, but even just like the move, being there in general. And then also, or like some experiences that you really maybe you can appreciate as like turning points for you going forward, sort of like this has done the thing to me, and like,
I think it is connected to what some of the stuff I've already alluded to, but the first thing is definitely the people here, which is, you know, there's something about, and I felt this at UCT as well, like there's something about being around excellence all the time that just like it just drives you. It just makes you, it just puts you into gear, and you're constantly questioning like, what am I doing? How am I helping society? What difference am I making? It can be a bad thing, because you can tend to be really hard on yourself, and because you're around like-minded people, it's just a perpetuating like cycle where you're all competing in a sense, but not because you want to be better than the other person, but just because like you see them doing good, you want to be at that level as well. And I think that's what being at Stanford, being at UCT too, but being at Stanford for sure is like that. Like, you know, going above and beyond, being creative, being innovative, constantly pushing the boundaries, constantly looking for solutions. Like this place is, you know, and then they're supportive of that. Like you could probably find a department that will fund some random little project that you are passionate about and want to do, and they will give you the money for it, you know? So I think that's definitely been something that like I appreciate and has been super mind-blowing about being here. And then, besides actually the people as well and the conversations that I've been privileged to have, I think that's it.
Yeah. Honestly. No, but like those are major things. Those are major things.
It's really just like, when I think about like, why do I like being here? Because I've thought about like, I want to go home. And so the thing that definitely makes me be like, no, this is worth it. This is where you're meant to be, is those interactions. And it always comes down to that. It's like, it's been, at least for me, probably that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it's been a hard transition to being here, but the upside of it, which far outweighs the bad, has just been like the level of support. People are kind, but people care about the world. They care about things and they're passionate about things and they, you know, are unapologetic about it. And
Yeah.
I just really appreciate that.
And then how would you say that, like, all of these things sort of, I mean, I don't know if you know already sort of what your next steps are or whatnot, but how do you think they contribute towards those next steps? The Gloria of the future.
Oh my God. So I mean, it's a hard balance, as I said, because you're around such driven people. You feel like you need to match that all the time. And, you know, I've been in school for literally my entire life. Like, I've never taken a gap year. I've never not been studying. And when I came here, I was super exhausted. I was just completely burnt out. And, you know, with the pandemic and everything, it's forced me to reflect. On the one hand, really trying to just be in the moment and be like, this is in some ways a milestone or a pinnacle of my academic career is, you know, getting to Stanford. So like, I need to sit in the moment and just enjoy being here. Like, just enjoy the perks of being on a scholarship, not having to worry about tuition. Enjoy the perks of having access to this intellectual pool of people that I can learn from, and, you know, and just enjoy being here, at least for, you know, a year or two. So that's what I'm doing right now. But even with that said, like, I think my brain is still turning and thinking of next steps, and I'm thinking about impact and how I can bring what I know, which is very much like academia focused, and make and institutionalize that in a way, or make it in a way that it can help other people. So it's linked to actually what we're doing right now, talking about experiences, talking about mentorship, talking about funding and resources, and how we can give that, like, create something that does that for other students, and especially students back home. In addition to that, I want to write more. I just published my first article a month ago.
Cool.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah. So like in my academic journey, just trying to solidify myself as, you know, a legal scholar, and, you know, start setting up the foundation for my career in teaching, hopefully, and maybe in, you know, more practical pursuits, like, you know, working in nonprofits or NGOs, or like using the research that I'm doing to make, you know, tangible change. None of that is concrete. It's all just like floating in the back of my mind. I'm kind of taking it a day at a time, especially right now with the pandemic. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't even make sense to make plans right now. I mean, it makes sense, but like, also, you know, who the hell knows it will be in a year. So taking it a day at a time. I think I especially being at UCT and being an international student, and being a student that, you know, didn't come from a lot of means, I was always planning what my next step was for the next year, because you're like, I need to apply for a visa or reapply for a visa. I need to make sure that I have a job. I need to make sure that, like, or, you know, that I'm doing this thing or part of this organization, because I'm gonna want to apply for the other thing the next year. You know, like, you're constantly chasing something, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and I've been forced to just be like, you need to take care of your mental health, because when I came here, I was not in a good space at all, and then I couldn't enjoy this amazing thing that's happened to me, like, you know, got into Stanford on the full ride, and but my head was not in it. And so I think it's been like, okay, I want to excel and keep pushing myself professionally, and, you know, in all those other ways, but I also want to feed my spirit and feed my body and my mind, and make sure that, you know, I'm happy all around. So
yeah, definitely relatable in terms of like next step. It's actually really funny. Like, when I first got here, I think I got here in October, and then, or like in November, I had like a mini breakdown about like what my next steps are going to be, and I was like, you just got here.
Right.
Can you relax?
Yes.
And obviously it's different because it's a 1-year master's and whatnot. But just in general, just like focus on this and just
yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. So I was in a 1-year. When I came here, I got into the LLM, but it's not automatic that you get into the PhD, right? So you get in, and it's a very specific LLM. At least at the time, they've now changed the rules, but of course they changed the rules a year before I arrived, and then the year after. And so you get into the LLM. It's a cohort of about 11 students. And it's only that specific LLM that allows you to get into the PhD. So already you're competing to get into that specific program so that you can compete again to get into the PhD, which is even less people. It's like 3 or 4 people that they take.
Wow.
And all of you are vying for, so it's like that whole year that I first got here, I couldn't plan even the Knight-Hennessy stuff because there's a lot of programming and there's a lot of like, they encourage us to start things and apply for things. And because the program is so new, they really want the scholars to take charge and create like mini communities within the larger community.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be here a year from now. It's a survival mechanism, but it can be exhausting.
Thank you 100% for availing the time and just for like being open and like, so it's the brochures, like you were saying, the brochures and the website won't tell you everything that there is to know. And at the same time, I think like often sometimes you ask someone and then they give you like the sort of vague details that you could have read on the website anyways.
Yeah.
So this has been good for me, and I'm sure for like whoever watches as well.
Thank you.
Congrats on your publication again. I know it means a lot as an academic.
Thank you so much. And I love what you're doing. Like, keep making the videos. I know what it's like to have a channel and like you don't know if it's helping anyone and you don't know if you're just speaking into the void.
Yeah.
But listen, continue. Like I'm in a space where I'm also like, oh, I don't even know if it's worth continuing this thing, but like I think it's helpful. And once you start getting feedback, that's when you're like, okay, even if it's helping 1 or 2 people, it really helps.
Yeah.
And I also think, like what you said, it's I believe that people who are privileged share this information amongst themselves. And then they say that, oh, it's not right to tell people how to get into this because it's supposed to be a meritocracy. And I don't think that that's how it actually works. So I think that, people who come from where we come from, who are Black, who are women, who, come from developing countries, whatever, people who are not in the spaces that we're trying to get into, we benefit more from being upfront and like sharing the tricks of the trade and like the trade secrets, like because that's how you enter, and that's how people at the top are there and stay and keep people out essentially. So I love these kind of conversations. So this is great. Thank you for having me. Good luck to you too.